So, a psilocybin therapy center has recently opened up in Eugene, Oregon, and you can actually go in there and get psilocybin and have a session, and it's totally legal. And for those of you that are just learning how to microdose or want to know more about microdosing or asking me, well, should I go to Oregon and be able to microdose totally legally at this therapy center? I'm going to answer this question in this episode of Microdose U, but not only for Oregon. Should you go to any therapy center? Do you need it? How expensive is it? I'm going to answer all the questions right now. Welcome. I'm so glad you're here with me. I'm Dr. Dave, and this is Microdose U.
Enter the world of magic mushrooms with Microdose U.
Hey there, welcome back. Dr. Dave, Microdose U. How are you? I really appreciate you being here with me today. We're going to talk about whether you need help, whether you need to go to a quote unquote psilocybin therapy center. Right now in the United States, I believe the only legal one or legal ones are in the state of Oregon. Many of you may live there. Many of you would travel there if you could do it totally legally and under supervision. But do you really need to? And is it worth it? How expensive is it? We're going to unpack all of this. But before I do, if you're new to me, remember, I've got in every episode here on my podcast show notes. Click on the show notes, and I've got some really good, important links for you to help you along your journey. And my links are free. So check these out, and my website, microdoseu.com, and all kinds of stuff going on for you. And of course, I do offer paid mentoring, paid one-on-one coaching if you do need that. But many people don't need that. Many people can do this totally on their own and have been successful. Some people need a little bit of extra help. So whatever you need, wherever level you are, go onto my show notes and my website, Microdose U. Check it out. We've got a lot of stuff for you. But the question at hand is, do you need to go to a legal psilocybin therapy center in Oregon? Or do you need to travel somewhere out of the country to get legal psilocybin and go through therapy? Well, I'm going to give you some facts here. I'm on the website of, what's it called? This is called Epic Healing Eugene, Oregon, America's first licensed psilocybin service center. This article that I'm reading says opened in June, marking Oregon's unprecedented step in offering the mind-bending drug to the public. And they're saying the center now has a wait list of more than 3,000 names, including people with depression and anxiety and PTSD. 3,000 people waiting to get into this place. So let's figure out, is it worth? How much does this cost? If you're at the front of the line, you don't have to wait with 3,000 other people. Let's say if you can somehow get to the front of the line, what's it going to cost you, and what do you get for that? So let me go ahead and check they've got a little, I got to find this now. They've got a little pricing sheet here. And let me make sure I get to that. Okay, Epic Healing Eugene, psilocybin assisted therapy cost schedule. Now they've got different levels depending on what type of a dose you want to do. Now, most of you that are following me, and of course my podcast is called Microdose U, so most of you are interested in microdosing. And that makes a lot of sense because microdosing is really effective. And I've been microdosing for 3+ years now. And it's totally taken care of my depression, anxiety. I did have some PTSD for sure, not from military, but from some trauma from growing up. And microdosing, it's extremely effective. It totally rewired my brain. And I still microdose for different reasons. If you're a longer time listener or viewer, you know some of the reasons I'm microdosing now, continue to microdose, but it's been nothing short of amazing in my life. And and hopefully many of you that are following me, your life as well, your lives as well. But you know that a microdose is sub-perceptual dose. It's sub-perceptual, meaning when you dose, when you take a micro dose, that's what it is, a micro dose. It's usually about 1/10 of a psychedelic dose. You don't feel psychedelic effects. You can go about your day. You can drive. You can watch kids. You can go to work. You can go to school. You feel totally normal. You might feel a little bit better than normal, but you're not high. You're not stoned. You're not tripping. Nothing like that with a micro dose. So if you go into this Epic Healing of Eugene, Oregon, and request a level 1 microdose, which is they're claiming that to be 0.1 to 0.4 grams. I guess you get your choice. I don't know. I mean, I guess you can tell them what dosage you like. 0.1 being a fairly low end microdose, and 0.4, from what I think, is outside of the realm of a microdose. It's closer to a museum dose, or just a little bit of a higher dose than a microdose. But whatever, they're calling it a level 1 microdose. What does that cost you at one session? So you go in there, they give you the microdose. I guess you stay there for one session till, I don't know, I'm guessing hours, few hours. I don't know. It doesn't say exactly here. Oh no, it does. I'm sorry. It does say. The duration of the session is 1 to 2 hours. So they give you a microdose. You stay there 1 to 2 hours. It costs you $500. Now, some of you might be saying, that's really cool. That's great. I'm going to go. And others might be saying, what the F is $500 for one microdose? $500? Now, just to let you know, just to compare, if you haven't started microdosing yet, an average microdose, and have a good reliable vendor. I'm not talking about going on Instagram and finding somebody that's going to rip you off. I'm talking about somebody that has been vetted and we know they're good. A microdose should cost you a few dollars for a microdose. And this individual session is $500. Now, when you get up to level 2 microdose at the Epic Healing Eugene, it's and they're calling that 0.4 to 0.8 gram, and that's definitely much more than a microdose. 0.4 to 0.8. I mean, we're getting to the point where that's larger than a microdose. There's no question about it. And they're saying 2 to 3 hours. You spend 2 or 3 hours there. $800. $800 for what they're calling a level 2 microdose for one session. $800 for one session. A low dose, 1 gram to 1.5 grams, $1,800. Now, if you can gather up a bunch of people to go with you in a group session, it'll be a little bit less per person. Not substantial, but a little bit less. I'm not going to comment. You be the judge. $1,800 for one dose, which is a low dose. $1,800. Yeah, I did. That's not a typo. That's not a misprint. That's not a. I said that correctly. A medium dose, 1.5 to 2.5 grams, a 5-hour session, $2,800. And the higher dose, which is 2.5 to 4 grams, I hope you're sitting down, $3,500. Now, here's the kicker. This does not include the cost of the medicine. It says all costs listed above do not include the cost of the medicine, plus a 15% Oregon psilocybin tax, which must be paid in cash prior to the experiential session. The cost of medicine is about $15 per gram. In all fairness, that's fair, depending on market prices. Epic Healing Eugene does not inflate or mark up any psilocybin products. Well, they don't have to, because they're marking up and inflating a cost of a session. So yeah, the actual psilocybin is a fair price, I would say. But the cost of a session, $3,500 to go in and take a trip. I'm not doing it. Now again, one of the benefits is it is totally legal. They've gone through all the licensing, whatever that might be. It's legal. You're not going to get busted if you go in there. You're not, but you're going to pay $3,500 for a psilocybin session. That's for a larger dose. What did I say it was for a microdose? You're going to pay, what did I say, $500, right? Yeah, $500 for a microdose. This is the kind of thing that I do several times per week, at least several times per week. Can you imagine if every time I'm microdosed, I pay $500? I'd be bankrupt. Do I think this is necessary? Do I think you need to go to a psychedelic center and sit down in ceremony with your medicine? In my opinion, unless you're so worried about the law, and again, I always say in my podcast, and it's on my website, and whenever I send an email out in my newsletter, I always say, make sure you use psilocybin in an area where it's legal or decriminalized, and there are several of those across the U.S. But even if you don't, even if you choose not to listen to me, the chance of anything happening to you if you're doing a microdose in the privacy of your home, the chance is almost zero. Almost zero. It's just that law enforcement has better things to do right now than to go around busting somebody that's in their house taking a microdose. So I think we're taking that out of the equation. I wouldn't pay $3,500 to go to a psilocybin therapy center just for insurance to make sure I'm safe. I could be safe. I could be safe if I choose to do this. I can be safe in my home. I can be. If I choose to do it there, I could be safe in my home. So my feeling is this is outrageous. Now, when I look at the reviews, let me see if I can get to the reviews. I don't know how easily I get to them while I'm talking to you, but when I look at the reviews, a lot of people are saying this is like highway robbery. And let me see if we can find, and they've got their answer. Epic has their answer. Let me go to a 1-star review here. Okay. Brenda says, everyone who's considering this as a pleasure trip, it's not. I was stuck and could not get out. Horrible feeling, most terrible situation I've ever been in. I read the other comments and now truly believe that this is a scam, referring to the Eugene, psilocybin center. When asked what did I take away from the experience, I took away to never do it again and tell everyone the same. Now, again, this is one person's opinion. It's okay, Brenda. It's Brenda's opinion. If you go on, Google, you can read other reviews. There's one here. Absolutely disgusting to be charging $3,500 for a 4-gram dose. And saying that the cost of the psilocybin is a part of the overall cost is a blatant lie, as it costs less than $50 to cultivate, blah, blah, blah. That goes on and on and on. And Epic Healing does come on and they give a response to this. They say, Epic is the first of its kind approved to open up an above ground state regulated service after a 50-year phase of prohibition. It's a global access issue and only the beginning. Epic has always been a very small business committed to providing meaningful, blah, blah, blah. So they're saying that, okay, they open this up. They're the first. They had to pay a lot of licensing fees and all this, and that's why they have to charge this amount of money. And there's some truth to that. I understand. But should you have to pay $500 for a microdose and $3,500 for a larger dose? You be the judge. If you've got more money than God, then God bless you. Go ahead and do it. If you've got more money than you know what to do with, and you want to take a trip to Oregon, then go ahead and do it. But if you're like a regular person like me, I'm not paying $500 every time I want a microdose. I'd lose all my money. I'm not going to do that. I mean, I've got a program, a one-on-one coaching program that you can do virtually. You go on my website or go on the show notes and find it. And we've got a 10-week program, a 10-week mentoring program that's less than that. So remember that $3,500 is a one-time deal. You go in there and then granted, in all fairness, that's for a larger trip. So for Microdose, they charge $500. But think about if you have to microdose, let's just even say one day a week, $500 one day a week. That's $2,000 a month right there to go into this center to do it. I've got a program it's much less than that when you for 10 weeks. And not only that, although I don't share on my website or in the podcast episodes, I don't share where to find psilocybin. But when you're a one-on-one coaching client, it's easier to share that information. So we can do that. And that's easily done, very easily done. So again, this is not supposed to be a pitch for my program. I think my program is better, but because I do this also in conjunction with Dr. Denise Moret, who's a doctor of psychology. I'm not so sure you get a doctor of psychology when you go into this Eugene psilocybin center. I don't know. Again, to be fair, I don't know the answer to that one. But I've got a doctor of psychology working alongside of me, and if you choose to do the one-on-one program, then you get her, and it's much less, and you don't have to travel. That's another good thing. You don't have to travel. So again, I try to lay this out in a fair way. Some people might say, well, no, that's not fair because it sounds like you don't like this idea. Well, I don't like it because it's super expensive and it's not accessible to all. So it's super expensive. So that's true that I wouldn't do it. I personally wouldn't do it. And you might say, well, what about if I want to take a large dose and a real intense trip? Well, you could go there. If you have $3,500 to burn plus travel, you can go there. But on the other hand, there are trip sitters in every town across this country. So I submit to you that you don't have to travel and pay exorbitant amounts of money when there are experienced trip sitters for larger doses everywhere. Everywhere. Just look around. They're around you. I promise you. I promise. Okay, I hope this helps you. I hope it helps at least you, and if not just you, maybe a lot of other people. But that's my take on it. Again, I don't know. I wouldn't do it, but it's up to you if you want to do that. I've got a brand new episode that comes out every Wednesday and every Friday. Sometimes on Mondays, we do a Monday microdose. And that's usually a little shorter, just information type things that I've got going on to help you, but it's not really true microdosing information, but it's, well, if that makes sense at all. You check out a Monday microdose, you'll see what I mean. Just usually announcements and things like that, which are pretty important. But usually on Mondays, we don't tell you how to microdose. Okay, every Wednesday, Friday, new episode. I sincerely thank you from the bottom of my heart for being with me. I'm Dr. Dave. It's Microdose U, and you know that I love you. See you next time.